Welcome back, guys. Got my coffee here. Right, so we've done all the land stuff, now we're on to beaches. Beaches were always a mystery to me, and I was kind of forced onto beaches during the foot and mouth disease because we weren't allowed on any land. The farmers basically says, you're not getting on, so I was forced onto beaches. And the first beach we went was a beach in Edinburgh, and when we went onto the beach, it was in the middle of winter, it was frozen, and early starts in the morning to catch the tides. And we went down, and the first thing I noticed was when you went down the stairs there was a bit of dry sand, and then there was a big, like 20-30 feet wide patch of stones that ran for about 100, maybe more, 200 feet up the beach. So we didn't know any better, so we just started searching the stones, and we were getting hundreds of coins. We were getting rings, chains, you name it, lead, musket balls, we were getting everything. And I was like, this is amazing, I never knew there was so much stuff on the beach. We were coming back with bags full of coins, threepenny bits, wooden threepennies, pennies, halfpennies. It was mind blowing. So I just thought that's the way beaches were. So I was getting quite excited, just getting myself used to it, because then we were just using spades, and it was freezing cold winter, gale force winds, but we enjoyed it. But every Sunday I noticed the stones were getting covered in sand, and every week we'd go back and the stones kept getting covered in sand until they were virtually unreachable. So the stones then became about 2-3 feet down, and we couldn't get any signals. So the signals vanished because they were getting too far away. And further down the beach there was a big circle opened up, and it was stones, and again we were in there and getting loads of coins. But we went up to the big patch, the big strip that was there maybe a month and a half, 2 months ago. It was fully covered in. So the beach was putting sand, the sea was putting sand on the beach, covering all these stones up, because it's obviously ripped it all off at one point and put it all back on. So that taught me a valuable lesson, that if you're just digging, if you go into a beach, the first thing you do is take your scoop. If it's a sand scoop, if you're getting into wet sand, you need a sand scoop. This is an Evolution sand scoop. That's what I use and I've been using for many years. There's a lot of cheap scoops out there that break after a couple of weeks, couple of months. These things don't break, alright? And I sell them because the only reason I sell them is because they're excellent. So Evolution sand scoop is attached to a handle like so. That fits onto the bottom of the scoop. Stainless steel again, that allows you to pull the sand out once you take a big chunk out. Alright, so if I go into a beach now, first thing I do is I walk on the beach, different areas, and I do trial digs. If I'm just digging down into brown sand, where it's just brown, so I've moved off the dry sand and I've went on the wet sand, and I walk on the beach at low tide, or when the tide's going out. Then I dig down and it's brown. If I'm digging down all these different bits on the beach and it's brown, it means it's sanded in. So I'll zoom in a wee touch here just to let you see it. Takes a wee minute to zoom in this camera. Right, so you go on the beach, right? There is promenade, there, wee fence, dry sand, and then there's the wet sand, and there's the sea. Okay, so that's your beach. So imagine this is the base of the beach. The base of the beach is like concrete. It's either clay, hard packed stones, and that is the base of the beach, right? So if people come on the beach and they're sitting up here at the fence and they drop a gold ring, it's going to sit there for ages, because the tide usually just comes in, comes back out, comes in, comes back out. So all the fines end up here, and they stay here unless there's a storm which comes in and rips that away. And when it rips that away, it's going to drag it out into here. Okay, so they fines might end up in here, and that's where all your ring pulls, bottle tops, all that, all end up in here, right? So eventually they will sink down over time if they're heavy enough and land in the bottom, and they'll lie there for eternity stuck in that clay or those stones. There's stuff in there for Roman times. It's an absolute Aladdin's cave of finds in there. Now that might be 10 feet, 15 feet, it might be 2 feet, it might be 1 foot, so you just don't know till you test it. So again, this is high tide, so the beach comes in, high tide, okay, and you get guys in swimming, women in swimming, in the summer all playing, and they're enjoying themselves, and the rings fall off, and the rings end up in here, okay, and over time it will sink down to the bottom. Okay, there might even be a layer that's known as black sand here, which is thicker sand, so it will go through the nice brown sand and land in the black sand, and it will really lie in there for ages, because that maybe stop it getting to the bottom because it's thicker. So what happens is it gets into here. Okay, so you imagine the tide's going in and out, and then over time the tide spins and it starts churning away this bit of the beach, so it's causing what's called a gully. So what happens is the sand gets washed away here, and you maybe see it as a puddle. So you maybe see the beach nice and dry, and then a big little river running through the beach. The wet sand, that's what's known as a gully. So you would work the gullies, and then that's you getting nearer the base of the beach. Okay, sometimes a gully might be nice and wide, so you might see a gully like that, and it's got water in it. Get your waders on, get in it and work it. You work up and down that gully and I'll guarantee you get stuff. Okay, over time the sand might get eroded away with the beach, so this comes right down, and then now you're down here and that's the beach. So when you take a sample spade out, you take a sample scoop out and you get black sand, or you hit stones or clay, that's you at the base of the beach. So that's the area you need to work to get old stuff. You'll get rings in there, you'll get hammered coins in there, you'll get old finds going away back, musket balls, the heavy stuff sinks into here. So in the summertime it maybe puts sand on, and that sand might end up back up here again. But in the winter, through storms and ripping the sand off, the sand gets washed away, or maybe washed up to the other end of the beach, and it leaves parts of the beach, the base of the beach exposed. That's the areas you're looking for, and it's small stones, as you'll see in the video that I insert. It's small stones, it's not big boulders, that's not what you're looking for, it's small chuckies or pebbles. So I'll insert a photo here. Okay, so you've seen that, the type of stones that you're looking for and the finds that's in it. So that's what you always look for, patches of stones. It doesn't need to be a big long run, it could be a circle. They might be slightly covered with sand. That's how you always send it in, dink, dink, dink. That's what you're listening for, a hard bottom or black sand. And a good way to find black sand is walk up and down the beach, and you get the ragworms or lugworms, whatever they are. They push the sand up and it's got wee piles, so you're looking for the black piles, and that can tell you if there's black sand there. Alright, so beaches are no hard, they're no hard to understand. If you're digging brown sand, then you're probably going to be wasting your time. Your finds are going to be very limited. You'll usually find it's mostly ring pulls and tin foil on the brown sand, but once you start hitting black sand, clay or stones, instantly you'll start getting stuff back 100-year-old or older. Alright, if you're just interested in going out with the kids doing dry sand, you will find stuff, and it's a good day out for the kids. Something like that does, and then you can just walk along and scoop it out, or get the kids to scoop it out, and you shake it and all the dry sand comes out. Good for going on holiday. If you just want to mess about on the beach, you can just go along with your detector and scoop. Or if you're snorkeling along the water's edge, then what you can do is just take that with you and just swim along and just scoop it out, and you can do that just snorkeling. You can do it later on in the evening when the beaches are quieter. So that's ideal. They're only 15 quid. Sand scoops, a good sand scoop will cost you a couple of £100, but it will last you forever. And believe me, I've had a few and they're rubbish. Get a good one, you'll never need to change it. Alright, it's a bit heavier, but it's good. Okay, so I'm going to cut there, and then we're going to go into wading in the water, which I've done a lot of. So we'll cut, put some photos up of me actually in wading and doing a bit of diving, then you'll see it. Okay. Okay guys, you'll notice I'm in blue today. Scuba Tees, that's my dive centre that I operate. So as you know, I'm a scuba diver, but before I was a scuba diver, I've done quite a lot of wading when I'm metal detecting. I still do it. Now, I didn't mention before, getting to the beach, ideally you want to get to the beach before low tide. You want to get it a couple hours before or an hour before low tide. Then you can follow the tide out. It sits for an hour and then it takes about 4 hours to get back in. After that time you're pretty knackered, so we usually get there a couple hours before low tide, set up, have a cup of tea and a sandwich, and then start following it out, and it's just work. We just graft away after that. Okay, so you can get the tides on BBC Tides, BBC Tides Scotland, and it'll give you every place in Scotland that gives you the tide chart for that week. So that's what we use. Alright. Wading, I do most of my wading when I go on holiday, and my detectors that I've took, you'll see I've got a few videos up with the XP Days 2 on the beach, CTX, the Equinoxes, stuff like that, Excaliburs, a lot of pulse machines I've used. I've used most of the pulse machines on the beach, but I'm not going to get into pulses just now. We'll just stick to VLF machines, which you need on the beach. You need multi-frequency, sorry, VLF, forget that. You need multi-frequency in the beach, and single frequency operates, but you've seen in my previous videos that multi-frequency is the best. It's better, as soon as you go in that water and you let the water over the coil, multi-frequency makes a massive difference. Single frequency machines start sounding off when the water goes over it. Okay, so you've got your multi-frequency machine, whether it's a Equinox, a Legend, Deus, Garrett, but you actually need, if you're wanting to get in the water, you probably need a fully waterproof detector, and I would use a VLF because, sorry, I keep saying that, multi-frequency, because they've got discrimination. Most pulses haven't got discrimination, so you're going to have to dig everything. And when I was in America, I must have dug about 1,000 Kirby's or bobby pins, they call them over there, right? And that was hard graft. If I had a machine that discriminated, I wouldn't dig them. So it saves you a lot of digging. It caused me a lot of hard work, but I was still learning the game. So for underwater metal detecting and the beach, you can use something like this. This is a Minelab Excalibur, totally waterproof, and I can dive to 60 metres with that. You'll see a lot of people all over the world, mostly America, using these in the beach because they're excellent in the beach. They're just like a Minelab Sovereign GT, they work on broadband spectrum, multi-frequency, excellent in the beach. Okay, I use that for diving because it's really loud and it's waterproof headphones, and when you're diving you need something loud to hear. Okay, but we're not talking about diving just now, we're talking about wading. So a lot of guys still use these for when they're wading because you can belt mount it. The unit's totally waterproof at pressure, even under pressure, and they can detect, and it's got a lot of multi-tones, and you really get to know the sounds of stuff with the tone. Your ear really gets used to it. So there's still people use these, and they're old machines, but they're still good. If you were just using your normal multi-frequency machine, that's perfect. Most of them are waterproof. Make sure that you read the instructions on how to use them in the water. And buy waterproof headphones, manufacturers waterproof headphones with them, because even if some of them are Bluetooth, the Bluetooth doesn't work the minute you put the coil under water, as I found out with the DS. Alright, but when you're detecting, again, you need to be careful. You need to know the tides, and you need to check that there's no like rip currents and things like that. You want to be in a nice wee sheltered bay where it's kind of sheltered from heavy tides and things like that. When I'm doing it, I wear a wetsuit and I wear boots so that it protects my foot in case I stand in anything. Plus, when I'm using my scoop, I use a long handled scoop along with a pole on it with a handle, so that when I dig down, I can lift the scoop up with all the sand in it, and I can shake it, and the ring's usually in it. So I usually work up to chest height. I don't go any deeper than that. I've been there, but what happens is if you went down a bit of sand, then you're going to sink. So, and you're holding a metal detector and the scoop's quite hard. I've been there. Okay, so you want to go just about there, and that way if you feel it going by there, then you would move up the beach. You wouldn't start walking down and getting deeper, because you've got this stuff, and if you let it go you could lose it. Alright, so always work up to between waist and below your chest here. That's plenty. Alright, and just walk up and down the beach. If you were going to do the beach, I would generally wait till it went to a low tide, maybe at night when there's nobody there, you can get peace. Wait till it gets to low tide, then go in the water. That's you getting the lowest part of the beach that most people are going to search, and then you work up and down and keep working up and down as the tide's coming in, and you're just always working up to here. That way you can judge it. Just keep working up and down. 4 hours, you're going to be a bit knackered after that. So again, you'll get stuff, you'll get rings. When you're abroad, in Spain and these places, it's not really important to look for black sand. It's still good to get stones, because stones mean the stuff's stuck in it. But it's not important to look for black sand and hard packed clay or anything like that, because they're that busy that there's loads and loads of recent losses that hasn't had time to sink yet. So that's what you're looking for. Beaches in Spain, you can get a licence. It's like the NCMD equivalent in Spain. You can apply for a licence for a year to detect the beaches. It will cost you something, but if you contact the NCMD, they've got the equivalent to them, and they should be able to pass it on to you, and you can apply for a licence. Alright. Canary Islands, you don't need a licence to detect, but a lot of the Greek countries and places like that, you really need a licence, and you need to apply to the local government to get one. So be very careful with your metal detecting. Alright, and if you're metal detecting, don't go during the day and hassle people and walk over them when they're sitting there sunbathing and things like that. Go in the evening or early morning when nobody's on the beach, and that way you're not bothering anybody. They're no likely to say, right, we're going to ban this because they're being a pest. Go out when there's nobody there. Okay, if you find rings, try your best to return it to the owner. If you can't, you can't. There's nothing you can do about it, because it could have been 10 years ago it was lost, or 5 years ago. You'll struggle to get MD. I've tried looking online, and then before you know it, there's language barriers, and it's just a nightmare. So if you see any local recent stuff, people lost rings, you can ask them, is that the ring you've lost? Alright. So in Scotland, detecting beaches, probably the same in England. There's certain beaches that's protected. I know one, it's Aberlady Bay. Don't detect it. There's people there that watch it. They will come out and challenge you for detecting on it. So don't detect it. If you're detecting beaches, you're digging big holes, fill your holes back in as best as you can, just in case there's people running along with wee dogs or anything like that and they hurt their leg. Okay, so always make sure you fill the holes and take the rubbish with you. That way if people say what you're doing or whatever, you can show them, look at the rubbish I've took off that beach. You're actually cleaning the beach. Okay, wear good gloves, because there's lots of broken bottles and things like that ended up in the beach, especially wet sand, and when it's sunk right down to the base, there's stuff stuck there and there's like sharp glass. So wear good quality gloves that protect you against glass. They've usually got wire in it, okay? But again, waving your hand in front of the coil is bad because it's got wire in the gloves and it signals. So try and get good gloves that protect your hand, alright? Try and make sure the fine's out the hole as well before you start putting your hand in. Again, you can cut it, so be careful. Always clean your hands after using the beach, be hygienic. Be courteous to people around about you. If they ask you what you found, show them your finds. Obviously, if it's, you don't want to be too encouraging, because before you know it, the next week they're a metal detector detecting your patch, and that happens. So I hope you've enjoyed that wee section on the beach. I'll do a wee touch on the diving in a separate video later on. That's not going to be added to this because it's a specialist thing and you need to take a diving course for it. Alright, so that's just Scottish and UK beaches, and then if you're going abroad, how you would do it, we've covered there. Okay.